Hi, I'm Chin-Lu.
And I'm Sal, and this is our next make.
We're in the kitchen today to work on a project to help keep our pantry tidy. We try our best to keep things organized, but we're still not very excited about how we store our cans.
As you can see, we keep our cans like this, and that's not too bad, but they do tend to topple a little bit if we pull the drawer out too quickly. The other problem is, as we start to use the cans, they get further and further from the front, so we either have to pull the drawer out more or reach in further. And the last problem is, as we use the cans and buy more, we want to rotate the stock, so we have to pull all of this forward and then place the new ones in the back. And that's a bit of a hassle. So today we're going to do a project that should fix all of that. To get started, I took a few key measurements from our pantry drawer, and then I fired up SOLIDWORKS for Makers to flesh out my idea. When I'm just trying to prove out a concept, I often start with a simple sketch. In this first idea, I could tell that the lower rack would work well, but the upper rack would cause the cans to bind. Looking at the centers of these circles, I could tell that the upper can would push down and to the right on the lower can, effectively pinning it into the corner. I needed to modify the design so the cans were always pushing in the correct direction. I got a bit funky with my second idea, creating a bit of a zigzag in the back, and although the design would technically work, it didn't feel quite right. So I came up with this final design. I'm thrilled that it can hold a whopping 19 cans and will keep them continuously rolling forward. With the 2D layout complete, I could start the 3D work. I knew I wanted to make this out of 1/8" plywood and cut it on a laser cutter, so those things really influenced my design choices. To hold everything together, I started by using the SOLIDWORKS tab and slot feature to align the parts, and then I modified the geometry to make it even more awesome. Okay, check this out. The normal tab would actually just be a rectangle, but I made this little notch in the side. What that allows me to do is when I place it inside of the slot, I can slide it downward, and that would prevent this now from pulling out to the side. Of course, it can still slide up and be pulled out, but in order to prevent that, I've created this second layer. It's a slot of the same exact size, but it's actually just offset. So when I place it in there, you'll notice that it can no longer move up and down, and it can therefore not be pulled out to the side. The other benefit is that it doubles up the thickness of the sidewall, making it extra strong, and this surface is now nice and smooth. I'm really happy with this design. While I had the SOLIDWORKS model open, I also created a quick assembly so I could verify that the cans would actually roll down the rack. I applied gravity and set up contact between all of the parts and let SOLIDWORKS calculate how things would move. It was really cool to see the cans in action, and it gave me a ton of confidence that the design would work. So I created a DXF of the parts and gave it to Chin-Lu so she could start cutting them.
I grabbed the DXF from 3D Drive and prepared it for the laser cutter. We took advantage of a SOLIDWORKS employee benefit of working in the 3D Experience lab and using the material and equipment they provide. Back at home, we started the assembly process. We used scraps as spacers to lift the bottom face so that Sal's cool notched tabs can properly fit past the thickness of a sheet. Assembling this is like a jigsaw puzzle, but it goes together well, and although we did verify that one person could assemble it on their own, we were glad we had 2 sets of hands. We slide the notched tabs into place with both sides aligned and trap them using the second wall. To finish the assembly, we brushed wood glue over the large surface of the inner wall as well as the sides of the tabs, and then used painter's tape as clamps while the glue dried. We tried to go sparingly with the glue, but we did get a bit of squeeze out, so we'd clean it up with the paper towels as we went. When both sides were on, we grabbed a board and a few paint cans to keep all the joints tight and surface flat.
As an added bit of detail, I filled the slots with some wood putty. It didn't take much, and once sanded, it produced an even more smooth surface ready for paint. Speaking of that, we used black acrylic to coat the sides and left the spacer pieces natural. At this point, Chin-Lu had an amazing idea.
When I saw Sal testing out the assembled rack with the bean cans, it reminded me of barrels rolling down a ramp, and memories of my youth in an arcade rushed back to me. Donkey Kong! That's the theme this project was missing. Given that we were going to air this episode on Mario Day, I knew it was meant to be. I jumped into Illustrator and worked out the layout and graphics. This week, we were also celebrating International Women's Day, so I had to have a version of the board with Peach rescuing Mario. I sized the ramps and ladders to fit our design and sent the files to our Cricut vinyl cutter. It took a bit of time to read all the little details, but once Sal and I had finished, we could start to apply them to the can rack. We were playing more than making as our design started to unfold. It was super fun. Once both sides were complete, we applied a couple of coats of Mod Podge to attach the paper cutouts and give them a nice protective transparent cover. That was such a fun make. Nice job designing this, Sal.
Thank you. I do love the functionality of it, but what I love even more is the aesthetic that you brought to it with the Mario theme. It was amazing.
Thank you. If this inspired you, please tell us about it in the comments.
And if you want to make this exact design for yourself, you can go to the Made in 3D community by following the link in the description and get the DXF files. And
stay tuned till the end. We'll have something fun for you to watch.
Until then, we'll see you on our next make.